Well, it gives me great pleasure today to say hello to Gary Mee, who's going to join us for an interview through their eyes. So, hi Gary, how are you doing?
Good, thanks, David. Very good. How are you?
Good, I'm very well, thank you. It's a great pleasure to have this conversation because normally when we do talk, we're just talking about work and work and work and more work and things. So it's really interesting to find out a lot more about sort of your background and your history, which I'm looking forward to finding out about how you've developed your career, how you future-proofed yourself along the way, what's gone well, what perhaps hasn't gone so well, and yeah, if you could go back in time, what would you have done differently perhaps, and what great advice you've been given along the way. So to start off with, if you could just give us a brief overview of your career and where you're at the moment.
Yep, great. Thanks for the introduction, David. I started my career, I spent 2 years in the civil service in Ireland back in the mid-80s, quite a while ago now, and then moved to London in the summer of 87. And I've been working in the learning and development sector for the last 30 years now. Really enjoyed my career in client account management, working with some great clients, and also worked with some great colleagues over the years, and many of those are now my close friends. Currently, I'm working in a role as an account director for a global learning provider.
Yeah, brilliant. And what has your self-development meant to you through your career?
Well, to me, self-development, it's about taking steps to better yourself, such as learning new skills, finding out about new and interesting things, and also overcoming bad habits.
Any you could share with us, or should we just give that a miss?
Yeah, we'd probably just give that a miss. Let's go. Let's continue.
Yeah, we could have a competition who's got the worst bad habits. That could go on for a very long time. Okay, and sort of, is there anything, if you could go turn the clock back, is there anything you wish you'd have known at the start of your career that looking back you think, yeah, perhaps I should have done this, or perhaps I should have done that?
Yeah, I think one thing I wish I'd started saving earlier. That's for sure. Also, I think when I starting out younger, I wish I had more confidence in my actions and recommendations earlier on in my career. I suppose I wish I'd planned and prioritized more effectively. I suppose I wish I'd asked more questions. I think as I've gone through my career, I've been more inquisitive, and that's one thing that I think is really interesting, and it's developed through my career, is that asking questions, be inquisitive. I think that's a really strong trait for anyone to have in their career.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And also because the clients that you do have quite a diverse range of organisations and people. And, sometimes when you do meet them, and I know perhaps we don't have so much small talk when we're doing sort of joint, video conferencing at the moment, but, whereas when you have sort of one-to-one meetings and you go to their offices, it's easier for small talk, and you can be a little bit more inquisitive in finding out more about them and their businesses as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely. Right.
Yeah, and I dare say along the way that you've worked with some quite good characters as well.
I have. We could spend quite a bit of time on that at the moment, and some of them as well as I do, but that's probably for another day, I think.
Oh, I don't know. I remember one person that you had. Yeah, no, actually, no. Best not to, because more I think about one person, then the other person comes into my head and whatever. And yeah, we sort of used to have to go out on some quite interesting meetings where we used to have to meet people somewhere, and for some reason they weren't able to turn up. But that was a long time ago. Not in the current organisation. And with regards to, work and business at the moment, how are you, focusing on keeping your development going and, sort of being one step ahead of the game so you can support and provide, great advice to your clients?
I suppose it goes back to the last point about being inquisitive. I'm always curious to know more. So whether that be about my own organization, whether it be about my clients, suppliers, competitors, the overall corporate world, I'm always curious to know more, because that helps me in the it helps me with my learning, helps me in the job as well. And for me, keeping learning at the moment is about bite-sized learning. That's how I learn best. So it's lots of reading of articles, blogs, podcasts, videos. I've watched some great videos that you've done in recent times. Yeah, absolutely. So they're all great ways to learning in a time precious world.
Yeah.
And I'm currently working through a tailored, personalized learning journey of my own with the organization that I work for.
Yeah, brilliant. If I can just go back a little bit, are you quite disciplined in sort of thinking, well, I must, you say like your bite-sized chunks of learning and, reading articles and webinars and things. Are you quite disciplined in thinking, well, I must do sort of several of those a week, or how do you sort of make yourself do it? Because I put them into a folder and think, well, I must read that, I must look at that, and of course 2 weeks later I look back and then God, it's full, and I haven't looked at any of it because I've sort of been elsewhere.
Yeah, I've become more disciplined over the years, but I tend to, I look at maybe early morning, late afternoon, early evening, or even lunchtime when it's maybe quieter times, or if I've got a particular call with a client coming up and there's a topic that I need to know more about, I might do something like that prior to that call. So some of it is a bit ad hoc, but I just make sure that I've always got time for that. So I'll block out times in my diary a week ahead, so that at least I have some times blocked out the following week for that personalized learning, if you like.
Yeah, that's good. And also with regards to your program within your organization, how's that helping you?
It's great because it's it's a tailored, personalized learning journey. So it's focusing on the areas where I need development, completed a self-assessment, and as a result of that self-assessment diagnostic, that there's been a learning journey created for me. So I'm going through this journey. I've started off with the assessment, and I've also got a coach as well. So it's been really, really good, the whole learning process, and going through that at the moment, I'm learning quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's helping me with my career development.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And is that something that if the company hadn't have offered or was supporting you with, is that something you'd have been mindful of to go and get yourself, or is it just helped that the company's made it so available?
It's helped that the company's made it so available, because it's busy times, and would I have done that without that help from the company? Maybe not. Yeah, it's an interesting question, but it's been great that I have had it.
Yeah, no,
and I definitely recommend it to others. If the company are offering that, great. If not, then to do something themselves, absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, and it does make a difference, because obviously, we often think about the roles that we're in at the moment, but we need to think about what are the roles our companies are going to have for us in 2 or 3 years' time, with different working practices, different technologies, and we've got to think about what competencies that we're going to need and have to develop so we can stay relevant and value. And it can be quite a challenging situation, so we can't sit still for too long in not learning, really, can we?
Absolutely. No, I think you've got to continuously learn.
Yeah, very much so. And what great advice have you been given along the way? Has somebody sort of tapped you on the shoulder and said, Gary, what you need to do is?
There's been a couple of things, really. There's one piece of advice, or it's something that I've had in my head for years, and that's around how you work. So it's plan in decades, think in years, work in months, but live in days. And I really like that motto or saying. That's something that's stuck with me, over the years throughout my career.
Yeah, I'm going to make a note of that.
Yeah, it's really, I do love it. I don't know where it actually came from, but it's something that, a motto that I've had for years in my head. But secondly, this was something that a piece of advice that I was given in more recent times was, whatever you do, always aim to leave your organization in a better place than you found it.
Yeah.
And I find that a really interesting way of looking at how you do what you do in your career. And finally, I suppose it's never have any regrets, because what you did was what you wanted to do at the time,
Yeah.
and it's led you to where you are today. So no regrets as well. So those would be probably my 3 best bits of advice.
Yeah. I particularly like the no regrets, and yeah, sometimes we need to sit there and think, yeah, how can I make most of this? Because I don't want to regret. I think regret is a bad thing, because you can't go and revisit it, really, can you? It's very difficult if you've got regrets about something to go back and change something. So I think that's very wise. And also, I like the thing about, leave your organisation in a better place. And if anyone's ever read or likes these types of books, there's a wonderful book called Legacy about the New Zealand rugby team. And they talk about leaving the shirt in a better position once their career was over than when they started. Obviously, for the current players, that's a bit difficult, because in recent years, the players that have retired were totally, utterly world class. But it is a great book, and it talks about that concept in a lot more detail, which is a nice thing to have. So, anything you've sort of really sort of enjoyed? What have you enjoyed most about your working in time and your working environment?
I suppose it's looking for opportunities, discussing new opportunities. I think with clients that I work with, it's it's all about, as I said before, being inquisitive and asking questions, because when I am talking to my clients, there will always be something similar that we've done for somebody else, where I can help the clients that I'm working with. So it's really about developing my knowledge, using my knowledge to help the clients, and also develop myself as I go through my career.
Yeah. And the biggest challenges you faced?
Biggest challenges. Good question. I suppose probably the biggest challenge was I was made redundant in my mid-20s, and it really made me realize that you've got to look after your own future. Nothing is guaranteed in business. It came as a great surprise to me at the time. I was in my, as I said, my mid-20s, but it taught me to, never get complacent. So it definitely taught me that back then. It was a hard lesson to learn, but it stood me in good stead. More than a quarter of a century down the line.
Yeah, I think that's really wise, along with being inquisitive and your plan in years and your days and things like that, which I'm going to take off you and put on the link at the bottom of this YouTube video if anybody wants that. So we'll perhaps try and find out where it has come from, but I think that's really great advice, actually, those areas. So what next? How are we going to continue to future-proof ourselves so we stay relevant and value? What are your key focuses sort of in the short term and the long term in terms of development and moving forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm currently working through this personalized learning journey, which is obviously helping me to learn new things and develop new skills. But I also keep up to date on what's going on via my business connections. So on a daily basis, I use LinkedIn. I've various business subscriptions, as well as insights and intelligence platforms where I receive regular current updates. So that keeps me up to date with what's going on in the corporate world. And finally, it's talking to my friends and family, because they're really important to me. They're the most important part of my future. They always have been and always will be. So that's key as well in terms of next steps to future-proofing myself.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, that's been wonderful, actually. I've loved some of the advice that you've given there, which I think is really, really important, and especially the inquisitiveness. I think, you can't be you can't be over inquisitive in some ways, because it's what I call free learning. And like yourself, we get to work with all sorts of organisations, meet some wonderful people, and you can always constantly learn from them. And that's the bit I love about our environment the most, is that constant learning. Every time you go into an organisation and you meet certain people, you find out about them, and you think, oh, I didn't know it worked like that, or oh, that's an interesting viewpoint. And I think that's really special, and it's something I've always really appreciated. So
Yeah, I
that's
think it's
one.
the variety and the the people. It helps, as you say. It's never the same, and it keeps it interesting. The meeting new people, that variety, the things that are changing in the
Yeah,
working world.
yeah.
It's all really interesting, and yeah, it's long may it continue. And
Yeah. Have you ever sat down and thought about how many different types of organisations you've worked with in terms of your clients? It must be goodness knows.
yeah, there's quite a wide variety in terms of sectors and various clients. And over the years, yeah, I've worked with many clients of all different sizes and sectors and different parts of the world and different people and different challenges. So that variety keeps it interesting, and makes it worthwhile. And that's what I really enjoy.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your time. So could you just give me that quote again? Planning
decades, think in years, work in months, live in days.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Great advice. I really like that. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, David.
Okay.
All the best.